an issue of Creepy and Eerie. Hi, welcome to Garage Geek. So today I am going to be going over one issue of Eerie and one issue of Creepy. And the reason I'm doing that is because I was reading the Creepy, it was fine, trippy stuff. I got to the Eerie and there was one story where my jaw was just hitting my chest. I could not believe it. So I am going to be using a politically incorrect word in this video. So that's just a trigger warning for anybody out there, but it's coming right from the issue. So I'm going to start with Creepy. So last night I decided to read a couple of magazines and I only got through Creepy and then one story into the Eerie. It took me about an hour to read through this, and that's because while I'm reading, I'm also taking pictures and texting people and, you know, showing off the art and laughing and whatnot. So it takes me a while. It's kind of like whenever I do something, there's like audience participation with me. So I started reading this issue of Creepy, and this is Creepy from March of 1978, I believe. It's like in there, but it's really, really small. And this is number 96, and it cost $1.25. Overall, I really enjoyed the experience. There are 7 stories in the issue. First, it starts off with a very interesting letter page. The letters were actually a lot of fun to read. And so then we get into the first story, which is called Predation. And this one is story by Bruce Jones and art by Rudy Nebres. What you have to know about a lot of these stories. So every story in this is going to be tied into aliens somehow. But I believe the average story in these magazines is about 8 pages. And they try to jam so many genres into those pages. It's like a different genre every page just to make things wild, crazy, and very interesting. In this story, I was immediately attracted to the art. It's very, very nice. Lush backgrounds. 2 aliens come to Earth and they are able to inhabit the bodies of creatures. And they're shopping around different creatures to decide which bodies they want to be in. And they only have an hour because after that, their spaceship will explode. Cut to a woman and her husband who are on a safari trip with the safari guide, and they are out hunting lions. So you could probably guess where this is going, but it had an interesting ending that was a little bit of a surprise. So you can probably guess where this is going, but I credit the writer and the artist for doing the art and the story in such a way as to throw you off, but still come to that expected conclusion. The next was an editorial, and this was hilarious. The first one was about how Marvel Comics was releasing a Kiss comic. And the guy was up in arms because he calls Kiss as having non-existent musical talent. He's mad because Marvel Comics are promoting Kiss as superheroes when they have what he calls the SS logo in their Kiss logo. And you know what? I never even thought about that, you know, about bloodletting in the concerts. And he brings all that up, and it's really a funny article, which today seems like such a non-issue. There are a lot of really interesting things in this editorial, and I really enjoyed reading it. Now, the next story is called Trilby and the Star Rovers, and this one was by Buddy Lewis and Bill Dubé, and art by Luis Bermejo. This is a story about a little boy who is in contact with aliens through his mind, so telepathically. So the parents and a psychiatrist, nobody believes him. We're not sure if it's all in his mind or not. And so we have to see how this story will play out. The art was really nice throughout, showing the boy's feelings. Even in his drawing, his shadow looks like he's a beast. Some shots show like bleakness, like alienation. It was pretty cool. The next story is called Bonga and Me, and this was by Nicola Cuti and art by Esteban Morodo. This story was about a woman who was taken into another tribe. Now, she's got blonde hair and blue eyes when everyone else is dark, and so they mistreat her. And so at a certain time, she rebels and leaves with her bang stick, as she calls it, and she finds a dinosaur creature, and she befriends it. She trains it, and they grow up together, and he becomes larger and larger. And so she's able to go back to her tribe and attack. Now, there is a twist later. Well, a lot of the story is just a reason to have a naked girl running around on a dinosaur. But later there is an element of aliens thrown into the mix, and it gets all kinds of crazy. The funniest part is when the aliens abduct the creature, which isn't an anachronism. It was actually a creature that crash landed there and escaped and grew up. And so when they take the creature back, she's on top of it and she falls down. It's pretty funny. The next story for me was quite disturbing. It was called Alien with an exclamation mark, and it was a story by Bill Dubay and art by Martin Salvador. This one has two African-American soldiers in what looks like a jungle in Vietnam, and they're sneaking up on a hut and they get shot at. And along the way, the older one is just spouting all this racist rhetoric, and you're like, ugh. And you think he's talking about the Vietnamese when in fact he is, I think it's allowed because he's actually talking about an alien race and they are on an alien world. Once they get in to the hut, we see that the creatures are frog-like and there is a frog-human hybrid, which the baby looks half African-American. There is just so much wrong with this story. And this isn't even the one that my jaw was dropping about. This story, I mean, it's got a message that war is bad. But the way it gets there, I don't even want to go into what they're equating this and that. Like, I just don't want to go there. This story was like, my stomach was kind of like going, what is going on with this? Look at this picture holding up a gun. It's just awful. And then, almost near the end, they throw in this idea of consumerism. So America has sent all of their garbage, their electronics, everything that they make, they've sent to this planet, and the other planet, they don't want the electronics. And so they're warring against America because we're forcing our consumerism on them. Oh my God. So we had to go wipe them out because they won't buy our electronics. It's just mind-boggling. That story was so weird. And it just left a bad feeling in my stomach. Okay, the next one was called The Green. And this one was written by Bruce Jones, and the art was by Louis Bermejo. And this one actually was really, really sweet. It kind of was a palate cleanser. In this one, there's a space war, and there's a man who has to deliver supplies, and he's older, and he gets a new recruit. And the new recruit doesn't want to be with him because he wants to be in the thick of the battle. Now, they're going to have to go deliver supplies, and the journey is about a year there and then a year back. And so on the way, the older man is telling the younger recruit about the riches of the planet they're going to and how all the women there, they're so appreciative of them when they arrive. They just can have their pick of not one woman, but many women. And as we're going along, it's month after month. So the recruit starts getting bored with that. And so the man starts telling them, oh, but wait, there's another creature on the planet and they often attack and we have to protect them. And so you're going to have to fight them off. So when they finally get to the planet, the man has just been telling him a story to keep him going so that the kid wouldn't lose his mind in the long journey. And he did it all for the boy. And even though the boy is disappointed, or the recruit, he understands. And he keeps the fiction going even when they're on the planet. It was a really, really nice story. And like I said, I needed that palate cleanser. The next one is called Alien Strain. And this is a story by Bill Dubay and art by Alex Nino. And this is about an alien race where another alien race is in their spaceport and they are making a secret infestation. So they do an autopsy on a woman and there's all these like snake-like things inside and I guess they're eggs. And so now it's a race to stop the infestation. It was the art was interesting. The alien creatures were weird. It was a very interesting, crazy story. Now that ends this issue of Creepy with Aliens. But man, the back of this has so many pages of ads. And I guess this is what they're famous for. There's just like a lot of things that you can buy. But man, is it fun looking through all of these things and wishing you could have them and how much they are worth now. This stuff just page after page of all these really cool things that you could buy. And it was like that in the Eerie. You could even buy horror movies, and I would assume that they were on the reels that you could play on. And one of them is Reptilicus, which I reviewed. And of course, man, if I could buy these back issues, that would be so amazing. Now, the best ad was the absolute last one, where you could buy underwear with creepy images on them. I so want these underwear, and in fact, I'm going to look this up after this video. I'm going to see if some of these underwear are available. So now we're moving on to Eerie number 80. Now, last night I read the first story, and it was okay. So the first story is called Scallywag, and it is by Bud Lewis with art by Jose Ortiz. And this is about a group of samurai who are taken out by a scallywag. He's like a pirate who's living in Japan, I guess. And then he takes out all of them by throwing Benoit balls. I'm not kidding. There's even some kind of reference to what their other use is for. The final samurai befriends him, and then they go back to his place and have dinner. In the middle of the night, something invisible comes and kills everyone. I was very confused, and then I kind of realized that this might be the middle of the story, or that it will be continued, but there's no indication of that. So yeah, I was just a little bit confused, but I moved on to the next story this morning, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that it is a Jim Starlin story. He does the story and the art. And the character in this kind of seemed familiar. And I read Starlin when I was young, but I haven't read him since. And so this character is called Darklon the Mystic. It's very trippy. The art is really good in some spots, but weak in others. But overall, it has a very, very trippy vibe. Here is a man who sells his soul to a demon in order to get powers so that he could have revenge. A lot of the story takes place where he's going through the process of getting rid of his old body because it has to be killed, and then he's getting his new body that has the power. The next story is called The Pea Green Boat on Moonlight Bay, and this is a story by Bud Lewis and art by Leopold Sanchez. And this is basically an apocalyptic story where people survived on a sailboat. And so now they're sailing around, having adventures by meeting groups of castaways and mutants. It's very strange. So in this adventure, they have to fight someone who the locals think of as a monster, but he's a gene mutated man who lost his mind, and he goes into the village every night and he captures children and he eats them. You know, fun stuff. The next one is called Tomb Spawn, Pieces of Hate. And this one is a story by Jerry Boudreau and art by Gonzalo Mayo. And this one seems like they threw everything in the kitchen sink and they blended it. Okay, that was a really mixed metaphor, but you get my idea. So in the beginning we have, it's post-apocalyptic, and there's a bunch of savages fighting a giant bear, and then in swoop these men with wings who turn out to be vampires. They're having a war with each other. We start looking at the point of view of one vampire, and he turns his friend reluctantly, and then his friend needs to feed, so he's been checking out this hot babe. He doesn't want to turn her, but he's fighting, and so finally he does it, and then he enjoys it, so now he wants to be a vampire, and he's all in. And then the story takes another turn. Here come the space aliens. It seems like the space aliens want to have a war with the vampires, and may the best race win. So I don't know if this is going to be continued or not, but it ends with them. The last panel says, "Let the game begin." Okay, now we come to the jaw-dropping story. I was so taken aback by this story. I didn't know what to say. So it's called Third Person Singular, and it's part 2. So I'm being dropped right in the middle of the action. This is the first time the story says that it's actually part 2. This story was by Bruce Jones, and the art was by Luis Bermejo. So from what I can gather, everyone is homosexual, but they never use that word. And so we have one person with a really, really bad haircut, and he's struggling. He wants to be a heterosexual, breaking all the rules. But they've been told that every woman is retarded. But he fights all his urges because he wants to be with women. This is really weird. So anyways, he comes across a woman and he says, "Dear God, a woman." He's back with his friend and they're both looking really groovy. The friend says, "You actually saw her with your own eyes?" Women are just non-existent in the society. The hero responds, "I did, and Lee, she was far from being retarded." I can't believe this story. So he starts to question what the government is hiding when all women are not mentally handicapped. So he is able to find a secret corridor under the library. And who's waiting for him below but that woman from the first part of the story? Well, first of all, he starts reading a book. And he can't believe it. He says, "My God, this book was written over 800 years ago by a woman." It's all a lie then. They weren't retarded. No, I know I shouldn't laugh at this, but man, this just is so weird. And so the woman has a knife to his throat and he says, "No, I'm a heterosexual. I learned it from a hetero friend." Oh my God. And so he shows the woman, "This book was written by a woman. There's a picture of it and a man and a woman making love. How does that make you feel?" "It's disgusting, perverted. It makes me feel sick." And then he says, "No, it doesn't. You're lying." And then he starts making advances on her against her will, but she soon succumbs and she's all into it. And so she takes him to her underground city where it's filled with women who have been on the lam. And I guess there's like 50 of these or 500 of these colonies all over the world. And the most hilarious thing is they're dressed in blue jeans and belts and bell bottoms. But the government has been following them and they go in there and they wipe all the women out. But those two escape. But the woman he's with is naked and she's running through the tunnels with him naked. And after I was done reading that story, seriously, I was laughing so hard. I had tears in my eyes. I was obviously sending pictures to all my friends. I'm like, what is going on with this story? This is crazy. After I was able to compose myself, I continued reading. The next story was called Kronk, Queen of the Purple Range. And this one was by Nick Cootie, but the art was by Carmine Infantino and Al Milgram. Now, I'm familiar with both. I often make fun of Carmine Infantino art. I did not like his art at all when I was growing up. Now, this art, when I'm looking, it totally looks like Carmine Infantino art, and it reminds me of the art that he did on some Star Wars issues. But we have this Satyrian devil boar. And he has his home base on Earth, but he's making a run. He's kind of a Han Solo type, and he's making a supply run, and he's delivering eggs. Well, unbeknownst to him, the first egg hatches into a fully formed woman, and she goes about destroying all the other eggs, because I guess she's a queen, and that's what the queens do. They have to kill all the other ones. But the devil boar stops her before she can kill all of them, and another one hatches. And so it's a hunt on the ship between the two women who want to be queen. There's bondage in this. There's action. It's like Alien, where they're running around on a ship trying to hunt each other down. But this story was actually really well written. The dialogue, the descriptions were funny. It was actually a really enjoyable story, and I was getting a chuckle out of it because it was written tongue-in-cheek. And the whole ending of the story, of course, doesn't go well for the Han Solo character, but it's just really fun and well done in the end. And then that's the last story of the book, and then you get a whole bunch of these ads, which, again, so much fun to look at. So I was asking Sleepy, I sent him a picture of this, and I said, of these shirts, which one would you buy? And I picked out two, and he picked out two totally different ones. So I'm asking, which shirt would you buy if you could? Or none of them. So I hope you enjoyed this romp with me of these two mid to late 70s horror sci-fi magazines from Warren. These things are cool, and I can't wait to read more of them. Please let me know in the comments if you want me to go over any more of these, because these stories are just insane. I want to thank all of you for the support.